Hey, Brandon.
What's up, Pablo?
Much.
How
I'm
you doing, man?
doing good. What about you?
Good, good. Just getting anxious for some races.
Yeah, I bet. There's
Yeah.
nothing around there yet.
There are. I'm just waiting until I get my second vaccine. So I get it next week, and then I'm gonna do my first race May 1st. So pumped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get mine. I get mine next week as well.
Cool. The second shot?
Yeah, second shot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious how that'll go for me. Like I heard it's not great, but we'll see.
Yeah. That's what I heard as well. So we'll
Are you
see.
in New Mexico now?
Yeah, I'm in New Mexico. I had a few days off school and work, so I just came here with the family that I used to live a few years back. So I'm just visiting and getting some riding here.
Sick. I've always
Yeah.
wanted to ride in like Utah, New Mexico. Just it looks amazing.
Yeah, I am in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
So there's some good riding here, altitude, some long hills.
Are you gonna do mountain bike or road?
Road. Yeah,
Okay.
just yeah.
Sick. Big rides.
Yeah, big rides, at least for the next 4 days.
Woo! I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
What's well so let's jump into this real quick. I always had told people this was the easiest question, but it's become the hardest question. Who's Pablo Cruz?
Ooh, yeah. I guess one of the hard ones. Well, how can I say on myself? I'm a very happy person, which like to learn a lot, get advice from people, and I think share what I have learned, what I have people have given to me, and yeah, help others. I enjoy doing that, so that's how I
Pablo,
would describe myself.
Dude, that's awesome. Pablo is a great dude. I'm actually will maybe if I put this out on the internet, we'll have to make it happen. Pablo and I are going to drive to Honduras for his Christmas gift giving. What do you call it? Christmas like community event, or what would you call
Yeah,
this?
I call it toys for kids.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a toy. It's a like an event that we recollect money to buy toys for kids in
Hmm.
the rural areas of Honduras, especially in the mountains around the town that I'm from. So our kids that are sometimes forced to work since a very young age,
Okay.
especially in coffee farms where they can't get an education, or their parents prefer to like send them to work instead of school. So our kids that live like adults pretty much,
That's
like they
wild.
don't they have never received a toy every any Christmas. So it's a happy moment, and they get very happy when we come and give them toys and play with them.
It's incredible. People need to watch. Do you have a website for this, or do you just collect it through Instagram? Or if right now people want to donate, can they get a hold of you to do that?
Yeah, I actually what I do is that I start like a GoFundMe like probably like 2 months before December,
Okay.
and then just recollect the money. But I actually don't have a website right now, but it's a plan, like a future plan
Maybe
to do it.
we should like start a GoFundMe earlier. I don't know what the rules are with GoFundMe, but if it could be like 6 months out, dude, I mean, I would get it on that. Let's start collecting. Let's see. Let's break the record and like go down freaking like knock it
Yeah,
out of the park.
yeah, for sure. And instead of just visiting one place, we can visit like two or three places. So
Dude,
that
that'd be
makes it.
what's your goal usually for collection?
In the past few years has been like between 800, 500 to 800. So that might not be much in here, but in Honduras, it's impressive how much you can do with that money.
Do you buy everything down there?
Yeah, I bought everything down there.
Okay. Dude, we're gonna crush that. We're gonna crush
Yeah, but
yeah.
if this year we're planning on driving down, that's gonna be better because we can actually take some stuff from here down there.
Okay.
So that'll
Dude,
be awesome.
we're bringing this to fruition. We're gonna destroy that. And I'm actually thinking I'm gonna do like a 150-mile ride. Have people like, hey, would you do like 50 cents a mile or something?
Yeah,
Get
that'll
like
be awesome.
pledges and all right, we're gonna brainstorm on this. All right. So how did you get in? So were you born in Honduras?
Yeah, I
Grew
was
up
born
there?
in Honduras. Yeah.
So did you get into cycling there?
Yeah, I got into cycling there.
Tell me
So
about that.
I was born in a little town called Cihuatepeque,
Okay.
Honduras. It's like a little town in the middle of the mountains in the center of Honduras. So everything started from high school classmates that they invited me to go ride a bike, and I was like, I don't want a bike, but my dad had a rusty old mountain bike, so I was like, oh yeah, I have a bike. So I went to the garage and just pump up the tires, and I was like, okay, I'm ready, let's go. But everything sounded so easy, like yeah, I'll just go ride a bike. And my classmate had this like fancy road bikes, and so I was like, okay, let's go get a try. And the first hill we hit, I was immediately dropped. So I was like, oh damn. But I kept going, and then they turned around, and when I saw them, I turned around with them, and then I got dropped again. And I was like, no, no, dude, like I'm not doing this anymore. But then like when you're like a kid, you're always like trying to be competitive, with your friends
Mhm.
and stuff. So I was like, the next day I was like, well, I actually wanna give it a try and see if I can keep up with my friends, to be cool and just be there. But then, and that's how, like, little by little. And then I told my parents like, hey, I wanna join cycling. I wanna see if I can get a better bike, like an actual road bike. And they
Mhm.
say like, no, it's too dangerous. Like, you better try other sports, because I always been active, like trying soccer or taekwondo sports. And yeah, they said like it was too dangerous. And then little by little, I kept like saving money and buying my own parts.
No
And then
way. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I got my first bike. It was a steel frame with the shifters in the down tube.
Mhm.
Yeah, one of those. And then I started going to races and rides, and I started coming up with like little medals of like third place, fifth place, fourth place. And then my parents like started liking it, so I was like, oh, so he's actually doing something,
Dude,
And
that's
then
awesome.
yeah, they started supporting me, and then I got my first road bike with actual shifters on the
Mhm.
on the hoods.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how everything started little by little. And then the national federation from Honduras started me, like, including me into the junior national team. And then we went to like junior races in Guatemala and El Salvador, like the near countries from Honduras.
Mhm.
So then I started falling in love with the sport.
Dude, that's incredible. I actually started on a downshifter bike. I don't even remember. I started cycling because I had to lose weight. I was just getting fat. And I remember getting out of the shower being like, dude, this is not a good look on you. Like, you need to do something. And my dad had a old Nishiki road bike with down tube shifters. And
Yeah,
I started getting into it, and someone was like, "You should get a trainer," and because it was about to be winter in upstate New York, and I'm like a coach? They're like, "No, like the thing you put on the ground and you ride in your basement." And I was like, "Okay." So I just like put it in, and like it's kind of annoying shifting, like reaching down to shift. So like you
yeah,
get on the trainer, you get in a gear, and you just mash it out, and yeah, slowly started seeing like weight coming off, and I was like, maybe I should like get into this thing. So that's I remember the
yeah,
first when the shifters were on the hoods, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, this is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I thought it was like one of those like F1 cars, like you have the shifters gear, and stuff. Yeah,
100%. And I have the first road bike I bought was like a Le Mans. It was called a Versailles, it was carbon, but it was like a, 105 everything, not very racy, kind of like they called it race light. I took it out
yeah,
to like test ride it at the bike shop, and I pushed on the pedals and it was like, "Meow," and I was like, whoa, this is fast.
yeah.
Instantly just in love with that.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah,
you're really active on Instagram of, in the gym, you're riding the mountain bike, you're out on the road, you've got a lot of different things going on in training. And we'll talk about PC endurance coaching also. What's your kind of like overall training plan? And the reason I ask that is, there's different demands to different disciplines, and sometimes it's confusing for athletes like, hey, I'm a mountain biker but I also train on the road, like how do I know what to train for? So I wanted to ask you, because you're someone who's super successful in a lot of different disciplines, how do you manage that? How do you think about it like big picture?
yeah. So I kind of divide my training like in three parts. So I do like strength training in the gym, or strength or power, whatever I'm working on at that moment. And then I do like a skill day, which is like mountain biking and just like going on a trail, working on some like technical features on the trail, like repeating it and things like that. Like nothing specific in terms of like power or heart rate or any numbers, just like trying to feel the fastest line or how does it feel like with certain tire pressure or things like that.
Mm.
And then the other is just actual workouts where I look at power, heart rate, and all those things more specific, which I do in the. I'll sometimes I alternate between the mountain bike, like doing them on the mountain bike or in the road bike.
What would
So
you choose to do on the mountain bike, and what would you prefer to do on the road bike in
I
terms of
think on the,
power?
yeah, on the mountain bike I do the mostly like higher end power, just to feel familiar with how does the bike feel. Like the bottom bracket is wider, bars are wider, the position is more like up straight. So I would try to just to do the higher end power because the mountain bike races are mostly like you are even either on zone 5 or 6 or zone 1, like
Mm-hmm.
just no pedaling, just going downhill.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the road bike, I like to do the more longer stuff or endurance rides.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then when do you split up power work versus strength work? If you can let people know what are the differences in those two, and is it in a portion of the season that it's different, or are you rotating throughout the season, or how do you split that up?
Well, that actually just came recently because like since COVID started, I got back into mountain biking. Well, like I started in mountain biking, but I then just dedicated myself to road, and
Mm,
now I'm like starting to getting back into mountain biking since then. So
mm-hmm.
it's been just like a year that I have been like combining road and mountain biking, like trying to
Okay.
perform in both. So
Okay.
then, so that's when everything started. But I normally try to do like, for example, like in a week, I would do Tuesday workout on the mountain bike, and then Thursday workout on the road bike, and things.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you were you talking about when you said strength versus power, were you talking about in the gym though, right? Like what's the difference in those two? Like how do you, because I'm definitely more of, and this is sort of to my fault, I don't really switch over to like plyo work, which some people will consider like speed work in the gym. What do
Yeah.
you differentiate as strength and power? Or were you just saying strength and power is the same type of stuff? Maybe I misunderstood
No,
you.
I work them differently. So like if there's no races, I will focus myself on strength because I feel like it gives you more strain, more I think TSS
So
for
heavier
certain.
power or heavier weight?
Yeah, strength.
Okay.
Yeah, because like a little higher reps and a little more slower movement. And then when races get closer, I do more power because I work more on plyometrics and shorter stuff, just explosive movements, just kind of like sustained
Mm-hmm.
the speed. Yeah.
Cool. So almost kind, and then also it probably like is more of like, I don't want to use the term maintenance lifting, but you're not trying to make strength gains. You're really staying sharp for the races that are coming up.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, and probably like the week before a race, I just lift once, and probably if I race on Saturday or Sunday, the last lift I do is probably on Tuesday.
Okay.
Although I've been trying this, like I think you talked about it, potentiation.
Yeah.
And I've been trying it a few times, and I feel it works for the higher end stuff. But when I have to do like 15-minute, 20-minute intervals, then it's like no, it's not working.
So that is what I've come to. And then I'm thinking of like, he coaches Ashton Lambie, the guy that brought Chris Del Sega brought potentiation up. Yeah, like 3 minute effort, it's great for it.
Yeah,
12-minute over under by like 9 minutes, I'm like, ooh, I'm tired. I just don't have the duration to hold out. So
yeah, exactly.
I was joking with another guy. He's like, so everyone's going to start bringing like squat racks to warm up with to a bike race. I don't think
Yeah.
that'll happen, but yeah, I've Tuesday used to be my last lift, maybe Wednesday. Since I've been trying to get in the gym twice a week, and so I'm thinking of maybe for like B priority races, I would maybe lift on Thursday and just see how it goes. But I've also we had a lot of conversations about, the higher rep, less weight. And I've considered it more of like a light day that I might do on the weekends. So maybe if I can do Tuesday, Thursday, I'm still determining like if I'm okay lifting heavy on the day of intervals if they're longer. If I can get 2 heavy days in, I might just do a home gym style body weight, light weights on Saturday just to keep the movements going. And I think to my fault, when I switched to just 2 days a week, I sometimes let my like tertiary lifts and lighter weight stuff fall to the side, and those are really important to keep everything like
Yeah.
lubed up and going well. So something I need to toy around with for sure. Um,
Yeah,
what
for sure.
what's a small thing that has maybe had a big impact in your training as you've come up through the ranks of, now being a Cat 1 cyclist, maybe that you were doing? How long have you been competitively racing for?
I think 11 years.
Okay.
Years
So
now.
maybe 3 or 4 years in, you like know a lot from when you first started, but what's something maybe that you've changed from the early years till now that you're just like, man, I wish I knew this back then?
Yeah, I think it's rest, prioritizing sleep, being consistent. That the time you go to bed, the time you wake up, it's key for me. Even if I don't get like the regular or the regular recommendation that they say you need to get like between 7 and 8 hours or 9 if you're like a very active athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But sleep consistency, I think, is being key for for I mean my training. And I look a lot into, I don't know if you're into HRV, heart rate variability.
I'm
So
not, but tell me about it more.
yeah, like like right now I'm doing my thesis, working on my thesis for my master's. So I'm doing my thesis on HRV and training stress. So how the body reacts with different stress and HRV, and see if HRV is a gauging tool, a tool to gauging training stress or recovery for in between training blocks.
Mm-hmm. What have you found so
Like
far?
so I've been tracking it like every morning just to see how my body reacts with HRV. HRV is the balance of your autonomic nervous system. See how your parasympathetic and sympathetic activity are in like if they're in balance, or if you are not adapting well to training, or if you are about to like overtrain.
Mm-hmm.
And not just training, also just like cognitive stress through the day. I mean, the TSS that we don't track, we extract TSS from on the bike, but there's like so many things that go around our lives that can actually impact our training. Like if you have a hard day at work, or if you're having problems with your family or things like that, that can actually influence your training performance.
No doubt. I mean, I think that is underrated big time.
Yeah,
And you know, once I left the hospital world, I was able to get more of a controlled schedule. Before I was very much on the schedule of just when the surgeries were that I had to be at, and how the doctor was acting, and da 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 da. And now that I'm more, full time with coaching, and I can structure days differently, I've noticed I've been able to reduce extraneous stress. But like you said, man, you have a bad day with family, or you have just a stressful day with whatever. I can feel that on the bike for sure.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I think it's tough sometimes for athletes that are having just high stress all the time to
Mhm.
understand that they might have a bad day, not because their body's not, they haven't been working out properly. It's just a bad
Yeah,
day. Like you can't perform that day. So it's tough to see these VO2 max intervals and go out and crush it when you're just like your brain is elsewhere thinking about all these other things.
yeah, exactly. Or like a high low day. Like I don't know if the day that you plan the workouts for all of your athletes, like I don't know if you have noticed some like changes on that day where you have a lot of thinking going on and planning and those things. Like does that reflect on the bike, or it's that a day where you like just want to go out and ride and clear your mind from all the thinking and stuff?
Mm-hmm. I think that's why it's I was talking to somebody about how like the training peaks calendar can't be the Bible, and it has to always be flexible, and
Yeah,
there are those times like it's got to work with life. And that's the one thing that I think there's so many metrics that everybody wants to get so into these metrics. And actually, this is a question I was going to ask you. you know, now that WKO, a lot of athletes have it, and I'll say use it. They don't, maybe they look at some charts or they pick up on one chart that they understand and they're like, I want to base everything around this. Or do you think sometimes that all the data now that we have at our fingertips has sort of taken away from the basics of the endurance side of this sport? Like, you know, endurance riding is not sexy, but it's a huge component. And what's your thoughts on that? Just how, like, you know, it's almost like we know too much. It's similar to like, you know, they say internet doctors, like we WebMD everything when we're sick and we go in knowing what's wrong with our body. And the doctor's like, what do you know? Stop reading the internet. What do you think about that, especially for newer cyclists? Like, you know, has it kind of gotten too much at times?
Yeah, I think for especially for newer cyclists, on when they're like learning about training peaks and they're basing their fitness from the performance management chart, and sometimes they're too much into TSS, and the TSS is like the predicts your fitness, and but we need to know that not all TSS is created equal. So we can just be loading TSS, 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 and then it was like, yeah, my fitness says is like 110 or 100, and then you go to a race and then you get dropped in the first 10K. Yeah. So yeah, it's sometimes hard to just depend on that chart. Like you gotta know the background of the athlete and see what he's working towards with.
Dude,
If it's like a mountain biker and you just work on very sharp short stuff, you're not gonna be creating that much TSS. I mean, it's gonna feel in the body, but the chart is not gonna be that truth.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You literally were in my brain this morning as I'm about to film this video of an athlete that had emailed me and was like, "Hey man, he lives in Tennessee and it had been you know, bad weather for a little while, and because of work and, you know, not a ton of sunlight at night, he was riding inside, had 90 minutes, and I was like, dude, that's fine. Like, do the workout and then get off." And
Yeah.
so his quote unquote Strava fitness has gone down from 100 to 70. Um,
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's been setting PRs. He's like super ready to go. And he's like, I'm just worried when I go outside, like, am I less fit? Did I lose everything from the winter? And it's like,
Yeah.
so literally the thing that I'm going to put in this video is all TSS is not created equally. All CTL is not created equally. Like, you can
Exactly.
have
Yeah.
100 and get beat by somebody by 70 who had focused training with the right dosed intensity. So
Yes,
I love that you
exactly.
said that. That was took it right out of my mouth. Um, what's shifting more towards you specifically? Do you have any good or bad habits in your life or training that you think affect racing, whether positively or negatively?
uh, Good habits. I mean, I think it's the same, just like in both sides. So I think is good habits is that I'm very consistent. I'm very consistent with my training, even if my volume is not very high because of work and school and all those things. I'm very consistent with my training, which I think has been key for just staying at the competitive level.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then a bad habit is like if I miss a day or 2 days, I like freak out. Even if it's like a rest week, yeah, I gotta go spin my legs and do this. But if I don't do it, it's like, oh, I freak out. But you gotta be conscious that one day is not gonna do anything. Especially in a rest week, you can still. I mean, it takes a few days to like lose fitness. Or
Totally.
sometimes like getting off a rest week, not like you don't have a like the first week after a rest week is not always the best week sometimes for
Mhm.
some athletes, depending on their training. So sometimes that week kind of like frustrates a lot of athletes, and sometimes happens to me, even if I'm the one that tells people like it's all right, like it's just that you're coming out of a rest week. It's sometimes that's how it works.
It's
Yeah.
just the unnecessary, it's the necessary evil. And the last guy's calendar that I was just looking at before we hopped on this, we shifted so he's going to do Crockett down in Texas, and he
Yeah.
really needs to get a rest week in. But I was like, hey, instead of doing the rest week the week right before this race, which then might put you on Tuesday still not feeling amazing, and then your brain starts racing thinking I'm not ready for this race, I said, let's shift everything 3 days back. So then you get the tail end of the weekend the week before. So you're like rolling by Tuesday. So mentally, you know that you're ready. But it's so easy for us to second guess ourselves after a rest week. If you feel a little stale, it's like, what just happened over the past week? But
Yeah.
it's just
Didn't that supposed to be better? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like I thought I rested. Am I supposed to be faster now? Like just, and that is a funny thing. Every athlete's different. Some people come back on Tuesday and they're a monster and they just crush it. And it's
Yeah.
really hard to predict that, and that it can change. It's just like the human body. It's a tricky one. What's
Yeah.
do you have any favorite intervals or any workouts, or not saying that there's a magic workout, but something that makes you feel good and ready before a race? So you've got a big race coming up, something that maybe like a little litmus test where you're like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. I think that will change depending on the of what kind of race I'm getting for. But I think what I like to do, especially for road races, is like, okay, I had a good endurance ride. Like for example, like I could sustain a good power for say like 3-4 hours, and I mean no cruising, and I still feel good. And then after those hours that I'm a little tired, and I can still like crush some intervals, like for say like a sweet spot or VO2 max intervals, and then I see that fitness with tired legs. That's when I think like, okay, like I'm ready to race, because like I can be crushing like VO2 max intervals in a weekday where I just train like 2 or 3 hours, but I'm doing them after like 20-minute warm-ups, after 30-minute warm-ups. So yeah, like that's good, like you're crushing the workout, but you're not actually doing them in a race environment where you get to the end of the race, and you have to do that. You have to be able to do that kind of intervals, like, and repeatedly.
How do you rate success or failure on those? Is it just a feeling, or because there's no way to know? There's some charts that show like, how much your power degrades after 2,000, 3,000, whatever you want to set it to, kilojoules. But even all kilojoules are not the same. You could go out and do a group ride and rack up 3,000 kJs and then do intervals. That's gonna be much harder than if you racked up 3,000 kJs of high endurance and then intervals. So
Yeah.
how do you rate like success or failure on those kilojoule deep efforts? Is it just a feeling, since you have the experience of like, oh damn, like I'm ripping it up at the end of this ride? Or are you going back and looking for specific power values?
Yeah, I think that would depend on the race as well. But yeah, like I just go by feeling, like how do they feel after, and also like making sure that my nutrition, like I was on top of my nutrition the whole ride, so I can have like an even feeling at the end of the ride. Like if I didn't have a good nutrition plan for that ride, and then I suck at the intervals at the end of the ride, then it's like, okay, but I didn't eat enough. That's why it sucked. So just making sure, like probably like I had a nutrition like I would in a race, and then perform those efforts.
What is your nutrition like in a race? What are you doing? Let's
So on
talk.
a race,
Let's talk macros. Like, are you preparing before you leave? You're like, okay, I have X amount of carbs per hour, and then let's talk like product if you want, like what you actually like to use.
yeah, for a longer ride, like for say 4 hours, I will try to go for probably between 75 95 grams of carbs per hour. So I try to split them up between 20 grams every probably 20 minutes, or 30 grams every 20 minutes.
Okay, is that liquid or
Yeah.
food or a mixture?
So I try to do both. Like normally at the beginning of the ride, I start with solids, and then with the time I start like switching into more liquids towards the end. But yeah, I do in the bottles. Like if we're gonna talk about products, I like the Beta Fuel from
Okay,
SIS.
yeah,
Yeah, Beta Fuel I think has a good mixture. I mean, maltodextrin and fructose. I think
yeah.
that's pretty good. And then on gels, also that's SIS gels,
Mm-hmm.
pretty good. I think they have like around 21 grams of carbs per
22.
gel. 22, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good.
I only know that because I always look at I usually bring like 4 and I'm like, okay, 88. Because I usually add stuff up with a calculator before I leave just to make sure, because it's weird, man. For the number of bike rides I've done, like I'll look at a 4.5 hour ride and sometimes I'm like, ooh, damn, I'm glad I looked at that because I would have been looking for food on the road, not bringing
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, if you don't get like if you like really squeeze them, you get a 22. Maybe you get a 1 if you don't squeeze them very well.
Exactly. I need to put that in. I've actually bring Swedish fish and I'll throw a couple extra in there because sometimes I drop a few and I'm like, oh well, I'm not turning around for that. We're gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Brendan with Evoke Bike. We will be back with part 2 with Pablo Cruz towards the end of the week. If this was beneficial, please let a friend know. And this episode was sponsored by Lactigo. Pablo and I are both Lactigo big time users. If you want to try it out, we've got a code for you, Brendan20, BRENDAN20. That'll get you a discount and it's 100% guaranteed, so you might as well give it a try. Hopefully you found this to be super beneficial. Apply some of this to your training, get faster, and hopefully got some in real life events coming up. Talk to you guys later. See ya.